Hi, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm baking Nicky, and today I'm making something that's becoming more and more popular worldwide, the French macaron. And I really love this recipe. This is a French cookie that is soft on the inside and crunchy on the outside, and it's super light, and you can have all different kinds of crazy fillings to go with them. Today I'm filling my cookies with a salted caramel and chocolate ganache, and actually last week I've uploaded a video on how to make the perfect salted caramel, so do check that one out. So I thought today I would talk through the steps and the video, and then hopefully it's easier to follow. So for this recipe you will need a couple of things which will make your life easier. And the first one is a food processor or a blender to get a fine texture on that almond flour. And secondly, a candy thermometer for the second stage when we're making a caramel. There are two ways of making macarons. Today I'm showing a more traditional one where you have to make a caramel and then you cook the egg whites, essentially making a meringue which you will then fold into the almond flour. But there's a much simpler version, but I know this recipe and I've made it quite a few times already and I know it works. And this is a very basic macaron recipe. You can obviously play with the flavors of the batter and colors. So the reason I'm making this recipe video is because my mother has been asking me for the recipe for a really long time, and finally I decided to upload this, and hopefully she's trying this as well at home. So that's it, let's get started. So we're gonna start by putting in the food processor icing sugar and the ground almonds, and we want to process this very fine so that when we pass it through a sieve we get rid of any sort of lumps. And you can get rid of any sort of bits that are left behind. Then we move on to mixing in 1 large egg white with a bit of vanilla. You want to stir this just to combine, and that's a wrap on the first part of the recipe. And just make sure that you cover this while we move on to the second part, because you don't want this mixture to dry out. So I'm just going to put this aside and move on to my caramel mixture. It's a simple caramel, meaning we only have sugar and water in it. And I'm going to heat this up until it reaches 110 degrees Celsius. And while that's happening, we're going to start beating up 1 large egg white. So once that caramel reaches 118 degrees Celsius, you slowly add it to the fluffy egg whites. And be careful, because you don't want to do this too quickly, because it will go all around the bowl. And you want to beat this up until you reach this meringue-like consistency. Now we're going to get our first batter, and we're going to gently fold in our, well, this is essentially a meringue, so we're going to fold the meringue into the almond icing sugar mixture very slowly and gently. And you want to make sure everything is folded in, and the consistency we're looking for is a continuous drop off of the spatula. So let's get our piping going. So I'm just securing the parchment paper here with a little bit of batter, and you want to keep the piping bag held up vertically like so, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3. So we're going to let them dry for about 20 minutes and then bake them at 165 Celsius for 12 minutes, and you quickly take them out of the oven to let them cool. Then we've got our 2 fillings here ready to go, the salted caramel and the chocolate ganache. It only takes a little bit to do the trick, so I just grab one of the sides and then sandwich together, and make sure you press on the sides rather than in the center of the cookie, as they're very, very delicate. So make sure you refrigerate them for at least half an hour before you dig in.